What is going on, everybody? We're back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. It is, believe it or not, we're halfway through January. It's January 15th. It's a Monday. Not everybody likes Mondays, but over here at Wrestling Republic, we love Mondays because it means it's Mailbag Monday. I watched Blue's Clues as a kid and we got a letter. In the words of the great Steve, we got a letter. We got multiple letters. I'm ready to go today, and I'm riding with one of the best crews in the whole business, my friends. First, I got to send it out when I'm introducing them all the way to Scotland, suited up like Barney Stinson. My good friend Soul, how are you on this fine Monday evening for you over there in the UK?
Oh, well, feeling very legendary, my friend, indeed. It's good to be here for Mailbag Monday. We get the Wrestling Republic's interesting takes and their insight into the world of professional wrestling. Some good, some bad, some very spicy takes. So I'm ready to see what the WR Universe has for us today.
I'm with you, man. I cannot wait to get into it. And we've also got all the way out in Florida, but originally from the tri-state area, Mr. New Jersey, Mr. New York City himself, Bret Sternberg. How are you on this fine Monday afternoon in Florida?
It's going good so far. It's raining down here, but it's all sunny because we have a lot to talk about, a lot of good to talk about, like Soul was saying. I'm happy you found your tie, Soul. But let's get into this. Happy Monday, everyone.
Yes. My tie is secured. I'm very happy with that because when you have only one tie, you're a bit on edge. I'm just saying, I love my look. I'm not gonna have to get the leather jacket out of the bin. That's gone and dusted. Hollywood.
It's the last thing we want.
He's retreated up to the cabins in the Highlands, so he's doing his own thing. So I'm here now. That's the big thing.
All right, and last but very certainly not least, not only the best AEW reviewer in the business, but maybe the best film reviewer on this whole planet. My good buddy are you in Wales or London right now? But David Sheldon, the man, the myth, the legend. Good to have you as always, my friend.
Roger Ebert, and Mark Kermode is shaking in their boots. No. Hello, everybody. I am in London. So lovely to be here, back now at university for my second term. It's been a very, very busy weekend of moving and sorting various things, so time for wrestling has been limited. However, I have tried my best to see as much as I can over the weekend for a very, very, very boring episode of AEW Collision this weekend that people didn't seem to agree with me quite how boring it was, but I will disagree with them on that kindly. But I'm excited to talk about this. Lots of great questions and a very esteemed panel and a wonderful host. So let's get at it.
Oh, absolutely. I'm with you. We got some awesome comments. Let's get into those real quick. We got a hello, guys, from Bobby Petito. Monster shout out, Bobby Petito. What's up, my friend? Good to have you as always. We got another one from Pierce Kiernan. # welcome to the Republic. Evening, gents. Here we go. Yes, sir. I am with you. Pierce, I believe, is also at, unless PK1 Ernan is somebody different, added that Soul is the second best Scottish person in the stream right now. Me first, gangster. That one's funny to me. I don't know. I feel like it's a tie in my eyes. But and then Connor McLaughlin with no such thing as a fine afternoon in Florida. I think there is, man. Florida's great. And
Florida's okay.
That one's from, and then he said, I want to shake this guy's hand. Man, I respect that. I've got a great handshake, and I appreciate the comment, Connor. We will definitely shake him up when we meet in person. I can't wait. But let's get into Mailbag Monday. I got to check the mail, and I've checked it twice like Santa Claus. I'm ready to go on this one. First question of the afternoon or evening, depending on where you are here globally. This is a global show. But should Roman Reigns versus The Rock happen at Elimination Chamber or WrestleMania? This is a question from Sanatani Manish. And I'm going to toss this one over to you, Soul, first. What do you think is the move here? Is it Elimination Chamber? Is it WrestleMania? I'm going to even go ahead and add to the question because I think we all want to know the answer. Is it neither?
Well, I mean, that's 3 good picks, but I'm going to be extra spicy, and that is
that a Pepsi?
yes, it's a Pepsi. It's all I have, and they're cheap on stock. I got to use my extra points to get something financially stable for me to drink.
Sponsorship.
I'm going with another option. This ain't happening at Elimination Chamber. The Rock and Roman aren't going to fly out for Australia. That's more going to be focused on the Chamber, and I think Seth and they'll do their part for that. Mania, it's going to be Cody. If it's not Cody, I'm not sticking for another 6 years of Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes. Finish the story, part 16 of an epilogue. No, I'm not having that. Neither I think it will happen, but it will happen at SummerSlam.
Ooh.
I think Roman Reigns will lose the title to Cody at Mania. The Raw after, he cuts a promo saying, you know, I may have lost my title, but I left my legacy because I am still the head of the If You Smell. Boom. Rock comes in. He's like, ha, looking so mighty fine there, tribal chief with no title. And that leads to a feud of, you know, maybe it could be that absolutely terrible On My Worst Show of the Year from last year, the tribal combat for the head of the table title versus The Rock versus Roman Reigns in SummerSlam main event. Eventually, it will be The Rock beats Roman. Roman goes away for at least 2 years. Give him a good time off because the man's deserved it. I wouldn't have The Rock be around all the time. I would just have it be like he's there and I always disbanded it like as a cordial jester. They're all gone their separate ways and let the Usos and Solo finally stop being comedy acts and actually be something serious.
Absolutely. I hear you there. I love the call on SummerSlam. Over on Instagram, it's Joe Randa agrees with you. It's SummerSlam. I actually think that makes the most sense personally. Myself, WrestleMania sells itself. We're going to Australia for Elimination Chamber, which sells itself. And you don't need Rock Roman until you need to start selling out a building that may not sell itself. That is an interesting take, and I really actually agree with so much of what you said there, Soul. I think it's a good one. We got another comment over here, though, on Instagram from Connor McLaughlin asking where Ben is. He's got the day off, my friend. So you got us. You're stuck with us for. I apologize if you were looking for Ben Allison. He's enjoying his day off. It's his anniversary. Wish him a happy anniversary with Melissa. They're the best. But I also, Bret, gotta ask you about the same question. Do you think this goes down at Chamber? Do you think this goes down at Mania, Reigns, Rock, or let's add the third to the equation, SummerSlam, as Soul mentioned? What is your opinion on that?
I'm pretty on point with where Soul's coming from. To be completely honest with you, I do think that Roman is going to take some time off for Hollywood. I don't think he needs time off because he has enough time off right now. He's barely on the show practically every few weeks in a sense, or every other week. So I think he has enough time off right now. For this specific question, I've answered this a few times. I do think that it makes a lot more sense to have Rock at Mania, but at the same time, SummerSlam does make sense as well. I think that the Cody thing, the Cody story is going to outlive and outlast until either next Mania or the Mania after that. But at the same time, I don't think that Roman necessarily needs to retain at this WrestleMania anymore because it's getting a little stale, the story. But I do see him still retaining against The Rock if they do go against each other at WrestleMania because that's the biggest stage of them all. It makes more sense.
Of the three choices, what would be your official pick for where you think it's going to happen?
Mania.
He's calling Mania. So we got one SummerSlam, one Mania, and that leaves us with David Sheldon to make his pick. Are we looking at Elimination Chamber over in Australia? Are we looking at Mania in Philly? Or are we looking at SummerSlam? What do you think as far as Rock Reigns, or does it never happen? There is that fourth option.
Cody should have won at Mania 39. And look, it would have, this is the thing. It would have made this story so much easier. Because the problem you have now with this whole thing is that I do want to see The Rock versus Roman Reigns. I promise you I do, right? I've wanted to see it for years. I really want this reign to stop. And that's not a slight on Roman, because I like Roman, and I actually really like the build they've done for the four-way and for the Rumble. I think Roman's great when he's on TV. I think that that there's nothing wrong. It's just I'm just fed up now, and I just kind of want him to lose it. If they'd have had Roman beat Cody, say Cody beat Roman last year, done Jay versus Roman at SummerSlam into Rock versus Roman at Mania 40. Story sells itself, lovely, and home in time for tea. That's not happened, so we've got to look further on. And I don't know when I want it. SummerSlam, fine, although I want to see Roman and Solo. To be honest, I think that's your last step in this, although you still haven't had Roman and Jimmy either. In singles action. I think of the three options, I think the one that is most likely is Mania. The one I want the most is probably SummerSlam. I don't think you want to rush into Rock Roman at the Chamber. My preference would be next year's Mania, where hopefully the title would be off him. But Rock coming back to take out Jinder in a very bad segment, that muddies it, because then you don't want to wait another year. Then you're waiting another year for this. The only thing I can think, I saw this, I can't take credit for this, but I can't remember who proposed it. It was somebody somewhere on social media proposed that the night after Mania 40, The Rock comes out and they do the Rock Cena thing that they did after 27, which is save the date. This is next year's Mania match. But I don't know, if Roman loses the title, I'd like him to go for a while so we miss him again before he comes back. Yeah, I don't know, but I'm going to say, like I said, most likely Mania. One that makes most sense of those three, SummerSlam. When I ideally like it, Mania 41.
You know, the scenario you just laid out makes a ton of sense. If you look at, I'm a huge mixed martial arts fan myself, right? Alex Bejeda, he knocked out Israel Adesanya in kickboxing, beat him, right? They have their series in mixed martial arts at 185 pounds. Izzy brought Pereira out of retirement, right? Izzy knocks him out. Izzy loses his belt. Pereira moves up to 205 pounds, wins the title. And then he said, come back, because Izzy, after he lost the title, announced he's not coming back until 2027. We can't have that. So that night after Mania scenario is perfect. At his lowest point, The Rock comes out and calls out Roman. And in a weird way, to your point, I like the go away to make it more important, but to bring him back in that way, like because a Rock call out is undeniable. If The Rock calls out Roman Reigns, he's not staying at home.
Yeah.
Right? He's just not.
Yeah.
And that's the way to do it. That's the way to justify it. I really like that scenario myself. My personal pick, they're going to do this at Mania 40. I believe so. Why did they do it on night one to set up for Mania 40? I feel terrible for Cody Rhodes because the story makes a lot of sense. It hasn't been told, and that's not necessarily his fault. It's not. Cody doesn't book the show. But the story being finished at 40, I think at this point looks more like a pipe dream. Because in my eyes, I believe that this one is going to Rock and Reigns. It is the main event of night 2. It's WrestleMania 40. We're talking about, you look at 30, you look at 20, you look at 10, these iconic moments in WrestleMania history. Rock Reigns is, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, the best looking billboard you can put up, the best looking names you can put on the marquee. And that is no knock on Cody Rhodes. But simply put, it is The Rock and it's Roman Reigns. That is the biggest name, set of names you can put on that poster and billboard. And I think that now you got to strike while the iron's hot, because this could get old quickly. And that's my biggest fear, because Cody's story can be finished at any point. Once it is finished, it is finished. That's something we haven't thought about. Where does Cody go after he finishes the story? That's as difficult of a conversation as it is booking the main event of this WrestleMania. But with that, let's move on to our next question of the evening. Over here, this is a great one here, because we just basically discussed it. if Cody does not main event WrestleMania 40 against Roman Reigns for the title, who is it that he faces? This is a question here from Kostov, the Notorious, or _ Notorious over on, I believe this came from Instagram. Great question. If he does not main event 40, who is it, David? That's the most interesting because take that, because I know you've answered this question a number of times over on the daily broadcast, right? As far as the direction that Cody's concerned. But what if it's not possible that he challenges Roman Reigns for the title? Then who is it?
My concern with Cody, and this is because we had this conversation, and Ben said that if Cody's still not over and still not world championship material by the time, if people start to turn on it and people start to lose interest in Cody, then that shows Cody was never the top guy. There's only so long you can stall on somebody before the crowd realize you're not going to give them what they want. And my concern is if you drag it out longer and longer and longer, it's the emotional catharsis is what we want to see. Cody is a phenomenal pro wrestler. He can make stories. He's told some brilliant stories in AEW and when he was in Ring of Honor, even from his last stint in WWE. Not everything has to revolve around the story. If he's not going to face Roman, my pitch would be to have Cody face Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. That would be and purely because I can't put him in for another title because that's not the title he wants. He can't challenge Gunther. It doesn't feel right because that's not the story ending. Is he wouldn't go for the IC title. He'd keep pushing for the top prize. So if he's not going to go for those, I think it's a feud against heel Drew McIntyre, former tag team champions back in 2010. Both had the same story. Both left. Both went through the Indies. Both came back much bigger stars than they left. Drew finished his story at Mania 36, and Cody didn't finish his at 39. And there is a story to be told there, particularly with the whole thing they're doing right now of nothing being Drew's fault. He can blame Cody for his own failure, and blame Cody for him not being able to finish the story. And I think there's a really, really interesting feud there. I had it be Cody's first feud when he won the title at Mania 39, because there was no way that Roman was going to win at 39, was there? Oh, wow. Dear. I'll stop talking about it now. I promise.
Till that Vegas line flipped.
I hate it so much. But yeah, I do think if you're not going to do it, then I think the next best option, because I think it's Punk and Rollins. So I think your next best option, I think Cody and Drew would be a really interesting feud going into a big show.
I think so too. And I cracked up at that point you made at 39. We were all sitting there. I remember I was sitting with you, Soul, of all people, right next to you. And we got the look at the lines in Vegas. And I go, dude, the line flipped. And you were like, what do you mean? I go, Roman Reigns is now the favorite to win the main event. And Vegas doesn't mess up. It was one of those conversations, and we were both sitting there like, oh, wow, that changes everything. And it played out the way it played out.
I didn't know any of that. It's one of the best matches of last year, Cody and Roman. Unbelievable match. And the ending made me not want to watch the next night. Granted, I was then saved not watching the next night because I didn't have to see the Raw after Mania last year, which was just atrociously poor. But it was like
we were there. I remember we were there.
I'm pretty sure when Cody got F5 by Brock, I screamed should have stayed in AEW or something like that. Just
no, you like walked to the back of the room. We were up in a suite in the corner. As soon as the F5 happened, you just like kind of dipped to the back of the room.
I was just like, I could not fathom. I couldn't. I wish I was with you guys at WR, because the rant I would have given would have gone on for about half an hour. Because I was so... Remember how cross I was when Jimmy turned on Jay?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, double it. That's how cross I was at Cody losing at Mania. I was livid.
We do have an outstanding comment here from our good friend Bobby Petito, and I will say I loved your suggestion about Cody versus McIntyre, if that's given the scenario we laid out with the question. Bobby said, what about Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton at Mania?
I didn't think of that.
I don't mind it.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Great story.
There's some story there for sure.
Who turns heel? Do they turn anyone heel? Randy?
I was thinking
Randy's
about
got
that
to be the
story.
heel.
I
Yeah,
was
That's
thinking
the
about
only
that
thing.
storyline right before Bobby said it too. That was
But
going to be
Yeah.
if I had
it's a
that.
really good idea. I really do like that
It's just,
one. That
it is a really good idea.
it's a fun one.
I would be
Especially
happy for
because you can
either of those.
you can really play on. I mean, as you mentioned, obviously McIntyre and Cody being former tag champs, but you can really play on history with Cody
Legacy.
and Orton in a way that is, that's hard to find in wrestling these days, especially given that it's a decade-long storyline almost. Right? We talk about finishing stories like, hey, that's one.
Isn't it fun
Tie up a few loose ends.
Yeah. Isn't it fun how much history Cody has with so many different people?
It is pretty outstanding.
He's got so much history with Nick Aldis. Play into that at
Yes.
some point if you want to. It's great. It's great. It's what happens when you have a wrestler that's so well versed. It's really fun.
I'm 100% in. Like, we can dabble with that anytime. Okay, let's move on to our next question though. We got one from it's BZE_J97. Monster shout out. Thank you so much for the question. Is there anything left for Jon Moxley in AEW? And Bret, I'm going to ask you about this. Personally, before I do ask you, I'm going to say, of course, Jon Moxley has accomplished a ton in AEW, but I don't think that means there's nothing left. I think there's a lot on that plate for Jon Moxley to accomplish and to change and to evolve and to continue to be successful. Personally, that's how I feel. Bret, do you agree, or how do you feel about this question? Because it's easy in some ways, I feel like, to be critical of Jon Moxley because he was such a staunch mover in the initial stages between AEW and WWE. It's really easy to be overly critical of Moxley, right? He put his face on the front of AEW, on the front of the war, on all of that. And I don't think it's fair to Mox given what he's given to AEW, but I want to hear your opinion.
I do think Mox has given a lot to AEW, almost all of what he has in a sense, because he's blood, sweat, and tears literally for that company. I do believe that there's more growth and evolving, as you said, Clark, that needs to happen with Moxley, because I feel like right now we're getting the same show and dance every single week or other week. I want to see an evolvement of character when it comes to his gimmick, maybe switch something up. He's already went heel and face, so we've seen that, and it's kind of not worked. He's kind of always been a tweener because people always love Moxley. Now, as you were alluding to Cody, he left and came back, and all these storylines came up. Yeah. I do think not right now in the present time, maybe 5 years from now, I think Moxley does go back to WWE.
Wow.
And I think that there's a lot to be told there, because then Roman's reign won't be in action anymore. Seth will be doing something else. And hey, there's so many options for Moxley. And I think it's kind of a storybook ending for the guy, because that's where he's always wanted to be. Yes, AEW he's grown from the ground up, literally, with the elite and others. Not giving him just credit, but he is an intricate part of that. And I just want to I want to be more excited when I hear his music again. I want to be more excited, and I want to be more glued to the television, because right now I'm getting the same thing almost week by week by Moxley, and I want to see something change. I want to see a little bit of growth in his gimmick, something.
I totally hear you. I will say this. I think the Blackpool Combat Club, unfortunately, because I loved the concept, has ran its course. It's time to disband. It's time to go the other way. It's time to stop. It's over. I love every time they play Wild Thing. I loved the movie Major League, not just when Moxley comes out to it. I love the fact that he enters through the crowd. Every time I've been in an arena, when they play that song and he comes out, the pop still lands. It's one of the most underrated entrances in all of wrestling. And I will say this personally, I believe Moxley is still the face of AEW. He was the ultimate. He's a polarizing figure in every way, but in a positive way. And polarizing and charisma can go hand in hand. And that's something that Jon Moxley has in spades. Because people want to see either Jon Moxley fight and win or lose. he'll be supported based on what he represents. That's the brilliance of Moxley in my eyes, and we need to get back to that. The legitimate fighting spirit, the legitimate will to get your back off the canvas. That's what he's proven time and time again, not just throughout his life, but career inside the ring as well. And I think we need to present Jon Moxley in that way as much as humanly possible. And we're back to square one in a positive way, because Mox is as talented as anybody in this whole industry and as violent. And we all know that. He's a fighter's fighter to the end. Now, we got one more question here. Not even one more, actually. We have two more we're going to go to, but I got one here that I got to ask. This one's from our good buddy, Bobby Batito. Shout out, Bobby. You're the man. Thank you so much for sending in the question. And that is, and this one's for Soul. Which UK wrestlers would you guys like to see get signed with TNA or AEW? This is a great question. And we've got an expert on the UK wrestling scene. Thank goodness. Up in the top right corner. Soul, talk to me, man. Who are we looking at?
Oh, tooting my own horn there, and I really appreciate it. But obviously, for the guys who don't know, obviously I do the Soul Sessions, was in a wrestling interview show, and my third season, I mostly focused on the UK as well. Not saying I haven't focused it in the past, but this is more season 3 UK focus centric. And I could have done like the big names, like who I've had on with Session Wolf Martina or Spike Trevay or Ricky Knight Jr. would be amazing. So I want all you guys, Brett, David, and Clark, check your little folder. I'm going to be an educator because I gave you visual guides on represent what my image gets. So here we go. So the first one so I've got 5 for TNA and 5 for AEW. First one for TNA is Ravy Davey. Ravy Davey, the 29-year-old, who's done stuff for ICW, likes to be called the Fresh Prince of Doomproy School, or the old king of the Scottish scene. His sort of style and gimmick is basically like a local Ned, the young team, holds a school called Community Pro Wrestling, and he's done stuff with TNA, hosted there for the Gut Check for them, pals with Joe Hendry, was a referee for their show here that they did here in the UK. So I think he would be a very good comedy character, sort of like a Cuddy Man or a Shark Boy. I think he'd be pretty good for the TNA company. Next one, this guy is amazing. It's Tate Mayfairs. Tate done a lot in progress. He's the current TNT champion, which is an extreme promotion in the UK. All in all, he's the guy that everybody hates, and he does it absolutely well. And I think him there could be something very, very interesting indeed. Now, with TNA as well, you have to mention their amazing women division. So some women wrestlers I think that I've interviewed who would love to see there is maybe this next generation's Awesome Kong, and that's Molly Spartan. Molly has done a lot of stuff in ICW and the Glasgow schools up here as well. She had that amazing match with Rio where she pushed Rio off the balcony. I'm sure everyone's probably seen the spot online.
Yeah, crazy spot.
Yeah, Molly in TNA, absolutely be a heavyweight for that division. Another one as well is someone who's grew up with TNA in that Knockouts division, the undeniable diva herself, Ashley Vega. Ashley been absolutely killing it here in Scotland as well with Pro Wrestling Ready and Eve. She did a wee stint down there as well. Someone who's always growing and getting the crowd engaged. I feel like she would be absolute killer in TNA. And final one as well for TNA is Nicole Jasmine. Nicole has been very, very great with what she's done in the business. Only doing it for so much as well. Community Pro Wrestling, she fought for their inaugural women's title. She's got another inaugural women's title opportunity in the Rugby Rumble at Attitude Pro Wrestling. So it's someone who's got all that, on their accolade list of being a part of the start of a women division company is great to see. And obviously a background in dancing as well, helping her wrestling ability, truly great to see. Now to AEW, first one, Hunter Sampson. Two things, 6'7", 270 pounds. Do I need to say more? That guy versus Brian Cage or Luchasaurus? Yeah, that would be a sight to see as well. Next one, the brilliance of Wales, James Ellis. James been absolutely killing it. No Mercy held the Combat Legacy Championship for over 400 days. Dude is an absolute beast. Done stuff for Riot Cabaret, a massive name, honestly, throughout the Welsh scene. So if you go to Wales and you're looking at a wrestling show there, you're going to see the brilliance on it. And I think him in AEW would be very, very enjoyable to see. Next one, You know, we've got Roderick Strong there. He likes to break. He's the king of the backbreaker, but Rob still, he loves to break backs as well. Part of the Good Times, a faction here in Scotland. I think Rob would be a very, very amazing individual in AEW. Truly kills it here in Scotland. If to kill it in AEW, he would absolutely do that as well. Next, someone here in Scotland who is only doing it for, I think, less than 3 years. She's been doing this. She's done so much. Wrestled in Scotland, went to Dubai, even everywhere she's been. She's honestly just killing it. That's Daisy Jenkins. Someone who's really got that connective matter with the crowd. People join in with her entrances. They stand up and clap. She's a joy. She would be really great for an AEW's women's division. And finally, as well, this person as well. This person, I feel like the way her character is, I would immediately, if I was Tony Khan, I would hire her and put her in the House of Black, and that's Nightshade. Nightshade is someone who's been really, really dominant, you know, done stuff for Pro Wrestling Eve, held 3 championship, nearly 4 women championships at the same time. She held the championship for a Spanish promotion for over 420 days.
Mm-hmm.
Just truly a hell of a character as well. And I think that's something that's really important as well within wrestling. Allison loves to mention, you think character trumps everything. Nightshade in AEW, especially with the House of Black, I personally would love to see that.
Delightful. I think you have an outstanding list, Soul, and like, of course, just almost nearly no misses. I would say no misses actually there. Like every single one spot on. David, I know you are also tuned in very well to the UK indie scene, so I got to ask you. I know you said you had a couple picks to put in. Let me know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I just had a couple to add. Mine are more kind of possibly well known than Soul's picks in terms of their heavily featured on Progress and Rev Pro. But the three that I could come up with, 2 for TNA. One would be the Lana Austin experience, so the whole faction, but Lana in particular, brilliant heels. They're really irritating and you love them. They're great. The other one is Sunshine Machine. They're a tag team, former Progress tag team champions. They are just so charismatic. I think they'd be fantastic in TNA's tag team division, AEW's as well. But I think TNA would suit them nicely. They've got a really catchy theme song as well. One for AEW, and maybe this is more of a Ring of Honor than an AEW, but I would love to see a man like Day Reese get a break in America, because I saw him in the very first Progress show I ever went to see live. And he was the person. They were main evented by, Spike Trevette was in the main event, and had so many top stars, Leon Slater, all those people. But he was the guy that I watched, and I went, I love him. Mm-hmm. And I think you could put him with Shane Taylor Promotions, and he would really saw former tag team champion with Dan Maloney, who's obviously now in Bullet Club War Dogs. But really, really great picks. But there's so many. Like I said, Ricky Knight Jr., Spike Trevette, all of those. But I just thought they were the 3 that popped out in my head.
I love those picks as well. I mean, I don't know anybody out here that can break it down better than that right there. I don't have much to add myself. I also do have one thing to add, though, and that's over on Instagram. Cardi Loves Refs, our good friend Cardi Cornett, a.k.a. Carter Crisp, with the shout out. What's going on, my friends? Good to have you, Carter. As always, you are the man. Let's move on to our final segment of the evening, the main event of the evening, as we like to say over here, from one of our good friends, friend of the program, Melissa Robinson. If TNA's comeback continues to pick up momentum, could it hurt AEW? I'm going to steal everybody's thunder and answer this one myself first. Nope. No, it can't. No. If anything, it only benefits AEW, because AEW and WWE's dynamic has proven over the last 4 years that the semblance of a threat will improve the product of the person with more resources. We've seen it in WWE. WWE got motivated by the fact that AEW existed. That's why we're getting this amazing high quality wrestling. I could not be more thankful personally for it. We're living in 2024 and it's as hot as it's been in my lifetime. And I'm about to turn 30 freaking 3 this year, believe it or not. Brutal, but not the point. The point is, professional wrestling is in as good of a spot as it's ever been. Competition breeds excellence. That's what happens in any industry. So if TNA is set to compete with AEW, AEW will only improve. So will TNA, so will WWE. That's how this works. And I could not be more excited to see how they pull it off. But I do also have to ask my outstanding panel this very same question. Soul, I'm going to toss this one to you first. Is TNA a threat to AEW in a way that it will hurt them in the long run?
No. No. I mean, TNA is great and they're doing some great things just now, but just remember, folks, this is just the first step, right? We're all now, just dogpiling, oh my God, they've had, they've done well. Don't get me wrong. TNA having some of the best business they've had in a decade. But when you can look at the TNA roster and think, yeah, they've got, Nick Nemeth, Trinity, Jordan Grace, Steve Macklin, and Josh Alexander, and the Machine Guns. I look at AEW's, Bryan Danielson, Adam Copeland, Christian Cage, Keith Lee, Hangman, Kenny, the Bucks. The star power in AEW trumps TNA. No offense. That's just because Tony Khan has deeper pockets to spend. I think, if anything, this is just going to lead to more of a beneficial partnership between the two. I honestly think maybe we could see a super show between the two, a TNA AEW show, truly a Worlds Collide situation. Because at the end of the day, both companies will walk away better from it. TNA will get the exposure from the AEW platform and have the big stars on it as well. Ospreay's done stuff in TNA. Now he's going to AEW. I think that'll be really beneficial to have him back on TNA programming. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's just going to benefit both companies in the long term, with TNA growing.
I couldn't agree more. I think you nailed it on the head. We got a comment over here on Instagram from Hugo_Velu. Also underscore at the end there, but hello, what's going on, man? Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Okay, Bret, I got to ask you the same question though. What do you think the deal is? Is TNA a threat to unseat AEW maybe as the number 2 company in America? Is there any threat here, or is it just positive for all of us wrestling fans? Oh, I just put it on Soul. Sorry, guys.
It's all good. I was wondering why my picture didn't show up. But yeah, I don't think that this is going to be negative whatsoever for AEW. I don't think it's going to hurt AEW whatsoever. I think this is a positive for TNA. This is the best, like you said, that they've been in the past decade or maybe even 15 years. So they're on a high right now. I do think that they are going to maintain at the level that they've been at when it comes to notoriety and recognition when it comes to AEW, WWE, and then TNA as the ultimate alternative to both programs. I do think that that's what's going to happen. That doesn't mean that they're not going to work together or the wrestlers that are signed to each company are not going to work together. Like Soul said, I think the collaboration is now more beneficial for each. And that is probably more on the horizon than we think it is. I think that they're going to work together very soon, and I think that TNA will not dethrone AEW, but dethrone itself and kind of take the step to the next level.
That makes a lot of sense. And I get where you're coming from there too, right? Because you look at TNA and how long that Hard to Kill is as apropos as any pay-per-view name I've seen in years, because that's what TNA has been for 2 decades, not 1, but 2 in a row, right? Won't go away, right? There's the famous 90s Nugget Shawn Michaels promo that in my eyes in a way is a little bit TNA in some ways. David, you review AEW. You're our head of AEW reviewing. I don't know many people in the world that have watched more AEW content than you yourself. So I have to toss this question to you. Is it possible that TNA unseats AEW in the near future or ever? Or how do you see this whole thing playing out? Because clearly the narrative, at least on other shows and in other places recently, has been that this Hard to Kill pay-per-view was like a turning point and a big thing. And that's where I've already said my beliefs, but I'm super curious as to your thoughts and where AEW and TNA go from here. Is there any chance we see a different number 2 wrestling company in America in the next few years?
I mean, I never want to rule anything out. I mean, there was a time that WCW was annihilating WWF in the ratings, and then within a few years, the whole company was dead. You know, I never want to kind of throw predictions out there. I do, like the rest of the panel, think that a TNA's resurgence will benefit all parties. I think the main thing that it'll benefit is wrestlers. And that is a great thing for the industry, that it will give people more alternatives, more places to go. It's not like we've got a minimal talent pool of a few people who, you know, these companies are fighting for. There are a lot of professional wrestlers. There are enough to go around. You know, if people leave WWE or leave AEW and decide the better place to go for them is TNA, then there'll still be people to fill those other spots, to go to Japan, to go to WWE, AEW, GCW, you know, NWA, all these different places they could go, MLW, if they wanted to. It's a really healthy industry right now, and I'm so happy with that. It's certainly possible. What I will say about Scott D'Amore is I do think that Scott D'Amore, I think, is brilliant at what he does. I think he's a great businessman and a great ambassador for TNA. I think that he's quite happy being the third, to be honest. We've tried putting WWE, we tried really pushing TNA against WWE, and it backfired spectacularly when they tried to run against Raw on a Monday night, and it got absolutely trounced. And that was when TNA was, you know, at the time was up in one of its upward years, and then straight down when it tried to do that. And Hogan and Bischoff and all those guys came in. But I think that, you know,
the Dark Ages.
The Dark Ages, yes. Oh, don't remind me. Oh no! Thank God I wasn't. I mean, I should preface this by saying, like, Hard to Kill is my entry into TNA as a fan. My relationship with TNA for many years has been my relationship with a lot of companies, which has been I'll watch matches if I hear they're really great, I will seek them out. But I've not been a weekly viewer. I am now becoming a weekly viewer. I'm making a conscious effort to be a weekly viewer. And so I'm excited for TNA. I'm excited for the company. I'm excited for its direction. And I think, could it surpass AEW? Certainly could. If it you know, not in its current format, but if things keep changing. But I think ultimately a healthy and thriving industry is a great place to be. So, and I am really, really, really happy with the state of the industry right now. TNA is looking great. AEW, you know, it's looking good right now. And yes, so just lots of great wrestling. More great wrestling is always preferable.
I couldn't agree more. And I love the way that you said that about how great it is for the industry as a whole. I'll drop an old school cliche on this one. It's hard to have standings with only two competitors. So if you have three, it does matter in a different way there. And that's something that's just exciting in and of itself. TNA, you know, I grew up with 3 Live Crew and like, you know, Monty Brown, aka Marcus Corvon, and the TNA that I grew up with was outstanding. We mentioned the Dark Ages, it happened and whatnot, but just to feel like a legitimate player is amazing. It was awesome to see Nick Nemeth debut. Huge fan of Nick Nemeth, but I do have to mention also, Drizzy and I both brought it up. It's the knick-knack now, not the zigzag, right? It's got to be the knick-knack.
That would be a great.
It has to be the knick-knack.
That would be a great name, but
it's got to be.
As we were saying about TNA, I do think that this gives, because I've been to a few of their house shows as well. I think this gives an opportunity for them to grow their audience and have more people in their stands. And me as well, David.
Yes.
So like, Hard to Kill was truly a turning point for me too. That was the first TNA pay-per-view I've tuned into for a long time, and this gives the opportunity for TNA to grow audience-wise in a live setting.
100%. We got a comment here from Bobby Petito. It was great to see Nick Nemeth in TNA. I couldn't agree more. But with that does bring us to the end of today's show, my friends. On behalf of me, Clark Taylor, Soul, Ben Loughran, David Sheldon, and Bret Sternberg, thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't already liked and subscribed, please do. It means the world to us. Thank you so much. We will be back tomorrow on Tuesday, same time, same place, noon Pacific, 3 in the East. That's 2 Central. That's 8 o'clock over in the UK. And of course, 9 a.m. for my friends over in Hawaii. Thank you so much. We will see everybody soon, and have an excellent Monday. Also, go Steelers tonight against the Bills. Sorry, I had to add that at the end.